Thanksgiving at my mom's place in Dayton was wrapped by 6:40. Turkey carcass in foil, football on mute. Lila already packed up the kids and peeled out. It was just me, Mom, and the sound of dishes clinking in the sink. That's when she cornered me. "Caleb," she said, twisting a dish towel like it had insulted her. "I've watched you get smaller for 11 years. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Mom," "She looks through you, not at you." That stopped me cold. Quick note: before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. "She's working her ass off for a promotion," I said. "Once she gets department lead, things will calm down." Mom shook her head slow, like she'd already had this argument in her head 5 times. "Baby, she's already settled. You're just not in the plan." I wanted to argue. God, I wanted to throw facts at her. My job at the campus facilities shop. The night shifts twice a week at the hospital garage. The extra money from fixing fences and patching drywall for neighbors. Meanwhile, Rachel networked, took work calls during dinner, and said all of it was temporary. I carried the bills, electric, water, internet, all in my name because her credit was in the gutter when we moved in. The closest we ever got to savings was $420. I hadn't bought new boots in 2 winters, just glued the soles with Gorilla Glue. She told me soon, then sooner, then after first quarter, like I lived on a promise plan. Mom stepped closer. "Do you love her?" "Yes." That came easy. Too easy. "Does she love you or what you do?" That one sat like a rock in my throat. I thought about the last hospital event, Rachel in full manager mode, introducing me to some guy from HR. "This is Caleb, very supportive," she said. Then she turned and left me by the punch bowl like I was the guy guarding the coats. The drive home was 42 minutes of red lights and ugly thoughts. When I got to the apartment, the only light was in the kitchen. Rachel was passed out on the couch, laptop cracked open, agenda pages spread like a takeover bid. I started picking up cups, and that's when I saw the tab. New apartment ideas. Click. Private board. Sleek studios, floor-to-ceiling windows, captions like, "Finally free, my space, no clutter." 30 saves, not one picture of us. Just her next chapter. I put the laptop down, walked past a brand new bottle of perfume, still tagged at $210, and told myself I was just being paranoid. Then her phone lit up. "Evan, Monday's going to be huge. Dinner tonight was perfect. You'll crush it." I didn't say a word. I just stared at the screen until it went dark. I hit the sidewalk like I'd escaped a fire. Didn't even make it to the parking garage. Just kept walking. Cold wind in my throat. Scallops still hot in a napkin I stuffed in my pocket. I didn't cry, didn't shake. I was too numb for either. Just embarrassed I shaved for that. Rachel left early that Sunday for final prep. No kiss, no small talk. Just a to-go coffee and a don't be late. At 3:12, I got a text with the address and time. No heart, no can't wait. Just coordinates like I was a delivery. I'd showered, shaved, put on my cleanest button-up, picked up a $10 tie from a discount store that still had Halloween crap on the clearance racks. Thought maybe this was her way of showing me off. Maybe this party was the after she kept talking about. Instead, I got a corporate ambush in a room full of people who clapped, like her promotion was a wedding, and I was the +1 they barely tolerated. The event space downtown looked like a showroom. Glass walls, brushed steel, silver balloons that spelled out, "Congrats, Rachel," like she'd won an election. Caterers in black polos serving food. I couldn't pronounce under lights so bright they buzzed. I kept my hands in my pockets doing the nod and smile thing. People I didn't know kept saying, "You must be Caleb. Rachel always says how supportive you've been. Like that was a role you could retire from." Then I saw him. Evan, sharp suit, perfect hair, confidence like he gets paid to walk into rooms late. Standing close to her, not touching, but close in that way men get when they've already imagined the rest. Rachel spotted me, smiled like she'd just remembered I existed, and walked over with a face I didn't recognize. "Caleb," she said. Not babe, not Han, like she was reading a name tag. She led me to a side table near the swag bags, then handed me a manila folder like it was a report that needed review. "Divorce papers," she said, calm and clear, just loud enough to draw a few looks. Lead positions require a certain kind of partner. You've been essential to getting here, but we're not aligned anymore. I opened the folder, every line filled in. My name spelled right. That part got me, somehow, like she'd practiced. Some guy behind me muttered, "About time." A woman across the table said, "He'll land somewhere." Rachel called me an anchor, said she'd been carrying the energy load. I looked past her at the champagne tower. Thought about the nights I'd fixed a busted heater in a blizzard, worked graveyard security, and still got up to make her eggs before morning rounds. I pulled the pen from my pocket, the one I always carried for surprise bills, contract jobs, parking meters. I signed every page without asking a single question. Then I set the folder on the gift table, right next to a crystal vase. "Congratulations," I said. "Now you can call me what you've been thinking for years. Done." Evan coughed. Rachel blinked. I grabbed 2 bacon-wrapped scallops off a tray and walked out. I parked behind a grocery store and ate those scallops in my car like they were currency, like chewing meant I still counted for something. I flipped the napkin over, tore it down the crease, and started a list with the pen that had signed me out of a life. Not revenge, just damage control. Utilities, all in my name. Lease, joint, but renewal was due in 3 weeks. Health insurance, she was on my plan. Bank account, shared checking, separate savings with a week $980. I sat there a minute, engine off, hands cold. Then I drove home. Place was dark, silent. It was 8:15 p.m. I went straight to the bedroom, pulled out my folder of HR numbers, and called the company hotline. When the rep answered, I told her I had a qualifying life event and needed Rachel off my plan. She didn't ask why, just said, "You'll get a confirmation email tonight." Voice tired but solid, like she'd processed 1,000 cuts just like this one. I hung up and cracked my knuckles. Next, cable. She insisted on the full bundle. Business news, hospital shows, plus the channels she never watched but said were professional necessities. I canceled it all, set the internet to shut off Tuesday, water and electric to end Friday morning and Friday afternoon, in that order. Next stop, the bank. Same branch we opened the joint account at 5 years ago when things still felt like partnership. I transferred exactly half, $6,540, clean cut. Then I opened a new checking at a credit union on the edge of town and slid the rest into it. The teller handed me the removal form. Blank face. Protocol face. "We'll notify the other account holder." "Don't," I said. "I'll notify her when the lights go out." She looked at me, really looked, and nodded. Quiet, no judgment. I drove home and packed fast, not a full clean-out. Just the pieces I wouldn't feel right losing. My dad's socket set, Grandpa's watch in the oak box, the framed photo of me and Lila holding up catfish at Indian Lake, a week's worth of clothes, work boots, coffee maker. That one mattered. I wasn't starting over with gas station sludge. I didn't touch her things. Left the certificates, the pressed blazers, the half-used bottle of $210 perfume, trophies from a game she was winning solo. Then I grabbed the internet bill off the counter, flipped it, and wrote the note. "You wanted to know what anchors do? We unhook. Internet off Tuesday, water off Friday, power off Friday. Health insurance ended tonight. Good luck with your new space." C. Not rage, just record keeping. At 1:10 a.m., I hit I-70 west with my foot flat and my chest hollow, drove until my eyes quit cooperating. Pulled into a rest stop near Columbia, curled up in the back seat, and caught 3 hours on a jacket for a pillow. By late afternoon, the mountains showed up on the horizon, sharp, icy, unbothered. I turned north toward Denver because altitude felt like the opposite of her plans, and because nobody from Rachel's world would look for me up here. The studio I found off Federal was 280 square feet of "don't get picky." View was a brick wall and a piece of sky no wider than a hallway. But it locked, the windows opened, and the landlord didn't flinch at dirt under my nails. Mr. Alvarez looked over my pay stubs, eyed the tools in my trunk, and said, "First month half. Folks who work with their hands keep buildings alive." I nodded. "I work clean. I don't care clean. I care honest." "Same thing." We shook on it. I dropped an air mattress on the floor, grabbed a used table from a thrift store that smelled like other people's pot roast and lemon pledge, and called it a win. Then I bought a burner phone and texted Lila, "I'm alive, don't tell Rachel where." 10 minutes later, "Proud of you. Call Mom Wednesdays. I won't slip." I called Mom from a payphone next to a laundromat where the machines screamed like old engines. She answered on the second ring. She didn't ask where I was, just started crying. The kind that shook for a second, then settled. "You did right, baby," she said. "Keep going." Work showed up faster than I expected. Maintenance tech job at a small private college on the edge of downtown. I filled out the app like I was building a fence. Steady, no fluff. Megan Ortiz, the facilities director, had a buzz cut and an expression that didn't blink. She asked 3 questions. "Can you read a chiller panel?" "Yes." "Handle tenant work orders without losing your temper?" "Yes." "Will you show up?" "Yes." She pointed at her office door. The hinge squealed like a mouse in a trap. "Fix that. If it doesn't squeak when you're done, you start Monday." It didn't squeak. I learned the buildings, the call schedule, the elevators that jammed if someone sneezed too hard. The team didn't do drama. Ramon with jokes, Big Eddie with his back brace, and Kirk, who'd been on boilers since I was in middle school. Megan ran meetings like her watch ticked louder than we did. On Friday, she paused before lunch and said, "Caleb, your closeouts? Tight. Keep that up." I went home with dirt under my nails and didn't feel like apologizing for it. Saturday morning, I walked Sloan's Lake with a thermos and no plan. That's when I saw the flyer stapled to a post near a bench. Sunday trail crew, all levels. Coach Patel. Photo showed 10 people caked in mud and smiling like they'd earned something. I texted the number. "Bring water and decent boots," he replied. "We don't leave anyone behind." First hike nearly took me out. Steep grade by mile 2, legs shaking, lungs whistling. I slowed. "You good?" A younger guy, Deshaun, tilted his head my way. "Yeah, just catching breath." "Pace, man. Mountains aren't in a hurry." At the summit, wind punched cold into my sleeves. The front range stretched like it had secrets. Coach handed me a granola bar, half unwrapped. "Whatever you're running from," he said, "it can't climb this high unless you bring it." I didn't answer. I just let the wind carry whatever was left. I came down off that mountain feeling wrung out in a good way, like my body had finally said something my mouth couldn't. I kept showing up at work, kept fixing what broke, kept my head down. For 3 weeks, Denver felt like it might actually let me disappear. Next morning, I called a healthcare attorney, Linda Park. I pulled her name off a Colorado bar referral page and left a message that sounded calmer than I felt. She called back quick. I told her what happened, told her about Evan, told her my suspicion. She went quiet for a beat, and when she spoke again, her voice was ice flat. "Mr. Reed, if your ex used her access to pull your records without treatment necessity, that's a HIPAA violation. Document everything." I grabbed a notebook and started writing like my life depended on it. Dates, times, what was said, unknown calls, screenshots of the numbers. A photo Kirk snapped of Evan in the lobby. He'd texted it to me with, "For the file, brother." Copies of my insurance statements, the claim dates Rachel could have spotted. I organized it like a maintenance checklist. Clean, dated, undeniable. Before I blocked her, Rachel sent a few messages. Accusations, excuses, then a plea to meet. I blocked her after that. Sunday, trail crew day, I showed up pissed off and tight-jawed. Coach saw it immediately. "You bring it up the hill," he said. "You're carrying it down. Your call." Between switchbacks, I told him everything. He just listened, steady as the trail. At the lot, he pointed across the street at a coffee shop. "We meet there Wednesdays," he said. "Bring the folder. We'll make copies. Paper survives when phones don't." I nodded, then walked straight to my car and drove there anyway. I walked out of that coffee shop with my folder hugged to my chest like it was a life vest. Coach was right. Paper couldn't be hacked, and it didn't accidentally disappear. Still, when I got back to my apartment, the silence was loud again. I needed a normal errand, something basic, bull nuts and bolts, no lawyers. So I went to a hardware store on Colfax. I stood in the aisle staring at 2 brands of pipe dope like they were asking me to pick a religion. One was bright red, screaming industrial strength. The other was plain gray, the kind that didn't need to brag. A woman stepped up beside me with a cart full of plants. Real plants, not plastic. She had dark hair and a bun, paint smudged on one hand, and eyes that actually looked at people. She nodded at the shelves. "Which one doesn't smell like a tire fire?" she asked. I pointed with my chin. "Gray can. It's kinder to noses." She laughed like that was the best news she'd gotten all week. "I'll take kind." She grabbed the gray one, then glanced at my work boots. "You a plumber?" "Maintenance," I said, close enough to get blamed for everything. "Fair," she said, and rolled off with her plants. 2 weeks later, I saw her again at the same coffee shop Coach liked. Different day, same bun, same paint on her hand, like it lived there. She spotted me before I could pretend I didn't notice. "Hey," she said, smiling. "How's the merciful pipe dope?" "Doing the Lord's work," I said. And that got another laugh. We sat. No awkward pitch, no fancy vibe. Just two people talking like we weren't trying to win anything. Her name was Nora. She taught elementary art in Jefferson County and flipped furniture on weekends. She described kids like they were tiny drunk adults with crayons. I told her I fixed what other folks broke and hiked when my brain got loud. First dinner happened fast after that. Nothing fancy, burgers, loud sports bar, sticky table. When the check came, my hand went for my wallet on instinct. She reached too. We both froze, like we'd bumped into the same door. "We can split," she said. "I asked you, so I'll treat next time." No weird tone, no scorekeeping, just straightforward. The words hit me harder than they should have. They felt like oxygen. The third time we met up, we hit an easy trail, and I twisted my ankle on a dumb rock. Pain snapped up my leg, and my first thought was, she's going to be annoyed. Rachel would have been. Rachel would have acted like my limp ruined her schedule. I braced for it. Nora just stepped in close and said, "Slow lane's still a lane," and matched my pace all the way down. At her place, she propped my foot on pillows and made tea so strong it could have stripped paint. She didn't baby me, didn't make it dramatic, just handled it. "You want ice?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "And maybe a new ankle." She snorted and came back with a bag of frozen peas wrapped in a dish towel. I didn't tell her about Rachel right away. When I did, I didn't start with the party. I started with the small stuff. The introductions that erased me, the promises tied to my overtime, the way I'd learned to apologize for being tired. Nora listened, quiet and focused. When I stumbled over a detail, she squeezed my hand once, firm. "I can't fix what she broke," she said, "but I can help you build something that isn't made of apologies." After that, things got quieter in my head, not silent, just quiet enough to hear myself think. I slept better on an air mattress than I had in a real bed for years. Work felt like work, not penance. Trail crew felt like a second spine. I didn't know if Nora would last, but for the first time since I'd signed those papers, I wanted something to last, and I picked up my phone to text her first. Coach and I hit the ridge like it owed us something. We didn't talk much after that, just nodded at the wind and kept walking. Tuesday came fast. I was elbow deep in a boiler inspection when Megan's voice crackled over the radio. "Caleb, lobby, now." By the time I got up there, my shirt stuck to my back and my hands smelled like valve grease. Megan met me halfway. "He's back," she said. "This time he's saying it's urgent family stuff." My jaw locked. She didn't need to say his name. I already felt it in my gut. The lobby was glass on all sides. Students, vendors, delivery guys, all of them turning their heads like they were watching a slow crash. Evan stood there holding lilies, cheap grocery store ones, still wrapped in plastic. Smile tight as ever. Hair perfect. The second he saw me, he launched into it. "Caleb, man, we owe you an apology. Rachel's..." I raised my hand, palm out, then turned to the security desk, made sure my voice hit the back of the room. "This is harassment. He's here without cause. He's been told not to contact me. Please remove him." Evan froze for a half second, like he thought charm might still work. Security didn't hesitate. The guards flanked him. One grabbed his elbow. He tried to hand me the lilies as they steered him out. "She loves you," he said, like that was the magic key to undo everything. I didn't blink. "Then she can love me from 100 miles away." I let the silence settle. I wanted every person in that lobby to hear what it sounded like when a man who never spoke up finally did. Back upstairs, Megan closed her office door and slid a box of tissues across the desk. I didn't touch them, just sat there breathing like I'd run 6 flights. "You want us to flag him officially?" she asked. "Already done," I said. "I logged him after the first visit." That night, I laid the folder out on my kitchen table, the same one I'd fixed the wobbly leg on the first week in the studio. I added to it, new date, new time, witness names, direct quote from Evan, what he wore, how long he stayed, who escorted him out. I titled the packet Incident 2 and emailed it to Linda Park with the subject line, "Ready." She called within the hour. "We'll file for a restraining order first thing in the morning," she said, "and I've already contacted the hospital's compliance officer. They'll take this seriously." I nodded into the silence. They better. I pictured Rachel in her glass-doored office, sleek desk, all those curated awards, and someone knocking, asking for an audit with her name on it. Trail crew that Sunday was nothing but rain and mud and 2 broken trekking poles. Half the group bailed. I didn't. Coach didn't. At the halfway point, he looked at me, looked at the ridge ahead, and said, "We can push or we can save knees." We push. The climb burned like truth. The air at the top was thin and sharp, felt earned. I stood there, boots soaked, fingers raw, and finally said it out loud. "I want it all documented. I want the line drawn in ink." Coach just nodded, like I'd joined a club that didn't advertise, just showed up when you were done letting other people speak for you. We pushed through the mud, climbed the ridge, drew the line, and less than 48 hours later, I stood in court, wearing my only button up again, folder in hand, waiting for the judge to speak. The hearing took 12 minutes. Judge had that look, tough, tired eyes, done with excuses for the week. She read my written statements, flipped through the photos, glanced at the hospital's letter confirming inappropriate access to protected health information, then looked at me over the rim of her glasses. "Mr. Reed," she said, "you are granted a permanent protection order. Ms. Collins is to have no contact of any kind. Violation will result in immediate arrest." Rachel didn't look at me, just kept her face stiff, like she was afraid it might crack. Her lawyer, young guy, tie too tight, probably knew enough to think this wasn't serious, spoke up toward no one in particular. "This is a misunderstanding." Linda didn't blink, just handed him her card. "The compliance report says otherwise." I walked out into the cold with my coat open and my chest clear for the first time in weeks. 2 weeks later, Linda called. State Health's opened an investigation. Hospitals suspended Rachel pending review. Another week after that, the call came like a mechanic's update. Matter of fact, almost clinical. They found 219 unauthorized accesses to your records, and 2 other patients connected to you. It's been reported to the Office for Civil Rights. She's terminated. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at my boots, the ones I'd glued back together more than once to save us money. 11 years I was told what I did was invisible, but paper saw everything. Evan tried one last time. He showed up in the parking lot of my building just after dusk. Same look, same tone, like maybe a different angle would change the ending. He didn't make it to the door. Security caught him halfway across the lot and called the cops without even asking. I watched from the window as the lights lit him up, heard him shout something about making amends. An officer came to my door. "Do you want to press charges for the PO violation?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. And it was wild how easy the word came out when you stop apologizing for needing peace. That night, I sat on the couch, hands still in my lap, not tired but hollow. Nora came in from work, saw my face, and didn't ask first. She just put a mug in my hands and sat down close enough that her shoulder took some of the weight I keep pretending I don't carry. "You did good," she said. "I don't feel good. I just feel done." "That counts," she said. Next afternoon, Megan called me into her office. She didn't offer a tissue box this time, just pointed at her computer screen. "Operations supervisor's opening up. You've been running that crew in everything but title. You want it?" I thought of lobby glass, lilies, the quiet click of a folder closing on a courtroom desk. "Yeah," I said. "I do." The week after Megan handed me the promotion, I brought Nora to a Sunday video call with Mom. Just a casual say hi that turned into something bigger the second the screen lit up. Mom squinted, leaned in, then broke into this grin I hadn't seen in years. "You're the one who makes my boy eat real food?" Nora laughed. "I try. He thinks coffee's a food group." Mom laughed so hard she had to wipe her eyes. "He always did think breakfast meant caffeine and a granola bar from the glove box." We hung up, and I noticed something strange. My shoulders weren't sitting up by my ears for once. I'd been bracing for judgment. Instead, I got belonging. I moved out of the studio the next weekend. Nora had a 2-bedroom bungalow in Wheat Ridge with a creaky porch and a backyard where a lilac bush kept losing the same battle with the wind. She made space like it wasn't a big deal. No big announcement, no rules, just space. We split bills like grown people who knew how math worked. If one of us had a long day, the other picked up the slack without keeping score. No sulking, no weaponized sighs, no comments about balance. Just, "You good?" "Nah." "Okay, I got this." Work shifted too. As supervisor, I ran the team how I wish someone had run me. No one doing crawlspace work on Friday stayed late. No one got stuck on the worst jobs back to back. I scheduled actual lunch breaks and told the crew if I caught them answering emails after 6 p.m., I'd kick the thread back with a calendar invite and a warning. Megan caught wind of that. She smirked during a budget check-in. "Look at you," she said, "building a culture instead of a trap." That night, I slept all the way through. No dreams about glass offices or velvet ropes. Just flashes of boiler schematics and dirt trails. Things that made sense. Trail crew kept growing. Saturdays became something I looked forward to. We had folks who used to hide in the back of the line, moving to the front. Front folks slowing down to check on the ones behind. Nobody treated anybody like dead weight. Funny what happens when you stop calling people anchors. Carla from Trail Crew dragged Nora and me to a block party in the neighborhood. I ended up manning the grill. Nora brought out a table full of chairs she'd rescued and refinished, each one a different color, a different story. Neighbors asked about the paint like it was hot rod trim. Kids played in the yard. Someone put on music that made the porch hum. For the first time in I don't know how long, I looked around and thought, this is mine. Not by deed, not by contract, by presence. I existed here without shrinking. Months later, a letter came in a bland white envelope from some regulatory agency I'd never heard of. It confirmed Rachel's sanction. Official, stamped. I didn't frame it, didn't burn it either. Just folded it clean and slid it into the back of the folder with everything else. Not to gloat. To remember that sometimes boundaries need paper. I poured coffee, watched the morning light spill across Nora's plants, and sat in the quiet I'd been chasing since the day I signed my name in that glass room in Dayton. A year to the month after I left, I ran into Rachel by accident. Sloan's Lake again. Cold morning, edge path. The kind where your breath comes out looking like a ghost trying to say something. She was with a woman I didn't know. Different haircut, plain jacket, no hospital badge, no phone in hand, no rush in her walk. Just quiet steps and a stare that landed on me like a reflex. She froze, just for a second, like a deer who knew exactly which car hit her the first time. I gave her a nod, the kind you give someone you recognize from a job you don't work anymore, and kept walking. No anger, no victory lap, just the pace I've learned to keep. A few weeks later, Nora and I were hiking a trail above Golden. Midday sun, wind in the trees, and this wide view that made you feel like the world wasn't trying to take anything from you. I didn't plan a speech. I just stopped, turned to her, and said what had been sitting in my chest for months. "I want to keep walking with you." She smiled like I'd said something sacred. "Then don't stop." I pulled out the ring. She said yes before I even opened the box all the way. Coach popped out from behind a Ponderosa like he'd been waiting for a cue. Thermos in hand, grin already loaded. "About time," he yelled, then handed us coffee strong enough to kick a bear. We got married in a backyard with 60 people. Actual chairs. Nora fixed each one herself. A grill puffing smoke like it was sharing secrets. My mom cried for the right reasons. No stages, no velvet rope, no speeches about alignment, just neighbors, trail crew, co-workers, a playlist that shook the porch and made the lilac bush dance. Megan gave a toast about how teams are built on small decisions. People clinked mason jars because we ran out of glasses and nobody cared. Work promoted me again. operations manager. The pay bump made me sit down and recheck the math like it was a trick question. I made a list. Old habit. Fix the porch. Replace Nora's wheezing Corolla. Take Mom to Santa Fe like she keeps hinting. But I scheduled the time off first, because I've learned, if you don't carve out life, a job will soak it up like a spill. Now and then, someone asks, "What happened with your ex?" I give the simple version. She chose a different life. I walked, then I built mine. If they press, I say this. Calling someone dead weight doesn't make you a strong swimmer. It just means you never learned to float without a person under you.